Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Library Research Week 2023, where our theme is Power Up Your Research Pathway. We start this morning by Ms. Celine Delport, who is the coordinator and presenter at the SU Language Centre, and she's speaking about do and don'ts of proposal writing. I will have her do her own introduction, and you are welcome to post any questions or comments in the chat, and I will give it to Celine to answer. So please, if there's anything, join us, and I'm giving over to Celine.
Thank you very much, Hayla. So I'm just briefly switching on my camera just to wave hello to everyone. I'm Selena, and thank you very much for joining today's session about the do's and don'ts of research proposal writing. I coordinate the writing skills workshops at the Writing Lab at the Language Centre. Yes, and we'll get in it. I'm going to switch off my camera just to so that there isn't a lot of doesn't mess with anyone's bandwidth. if with it, yeah. Okay. So welcome. I'd like to start um with a quote by Knight about proposal writing. So Knight said, well, first of all, a thesis proposal is not that different from a marriage proposal. You make sincere promises, you sweat profusely, you hope the other party says yes, you get down on your knees and beg. Doing a marriage proposal is, in fact, good practice for a thesis proposal. And although it's a little bit tongue in the cheek, and I love the responses coming up, so you're welcome to use the emojis. Um, Although it's a little bit tongue in the cheek, Knight does touch on three important elements of a proposal. The one is that you make sincere promises. So when you write a proposal, you foresee certain things, and you promise that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and you want to fulfill those promises. And we sweat profusely when we write a proposal. It might not be physical sweat, but it takes a lot of mental effort, and you want to choose your words correctly. Um, and it can be a stressful process. And then you hope the other party says yes. So a proposal isn't just an informative text, it's also persuasive. You're trying to convince the supervisor, the department, the university to let you do this research. Um, and those are three very important elements that has to come through in the way that we write our proposals. And one of the challenges with writing a proposal is that it's at the same time that it's a finished product, it's also a form of pre-writing. You're laying the groundwork for further study, and you're selling the viability of your research. But at the same time, so it's pre-writing, you're preparing for this research project. But at the same time, it has to read as an independent document. It has to be good enough, not perfect. I'll tell you a little secret. There's no such thing as a perfect text. Does not exist. Um, you'll see with articles that you read, other theses, other proposals, even ones that are really, really good, there's still room for improvement. There will always be room for improvement. So don't try to write the perfect proposal because you'll never finish. Um, but it is a finished product in the sense that it has to be good enough to get through the committees. And if you think about your research journey as a progress line, so don't think of it as a process or a timeline, but a progress line about from the time that you start your proposal to the time that you submit your thesis. about 55 to 60% into that progress is where you submit your proposal, which means you've done about 60% of the work in 20% of the time, and it makes the rest of the progress easier. If you've done a really good job with your proposal, it makes collecting the data, analyzing, writing your thesis, it makes that easier. So you do 40% of the work in the 80% of the time left. And that's why the original planning is so important. And we need to do a proposal so that we can see whether our research is worthwhile and feasible. Is it doable? Um, and does it have scientific merit? Um, is it doable in the amount of time that you have available? Is it feasible in terms of maybe you're doing lab work? Do you have access to the necessary equipment, to the necessary lab time? So when I say to see if you will be able to do it, I don't mean like in terms of mental capacity. Of course you can. That's not what you're looking at with a proposal. What you're looking at in the proposal is the practicalities. Is it doable? And it becomes, like we always, like I said before, it's a persuasive text as well. It becomes a contract between you and your supervisor or the department or university, where you promise you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and they promise to support you and help you achieve that. And you want to convince your supervisor that you've looked at all the variables, that you've considered um, what you need to complete the study to prove to the department, the university, that it's a feasible project, that it's worthwhile, that hasn't been done by someone else yet. It's worthwhile in the sense that it's going to contribute something to your field of study. And there's three main questions that your proposal follows. It's what, why, and how. And throughout your entire proposal, you're always answering one or all three of those questions. So the main question is always, what is the problem that you want to investigate? And the motivation part, the part where you provide an argument and you're being convincing and persuasive, is why. And that comes out throughout your entire proposal. Why is this a problem? Why should this problem be investigated? Why should this methodology be used? Why are you citing certain literatures? You're constantly think about your proposal as if they're a 2-year-old asking why the whole time, and you keep answering why. And then also the third question, how are you going to address the problem? How are you going to collect your data? How are you going to analyze your data? And so the what and the how will come through in different parts of your proposal, and the why will be there throughout. So I'd like us to do some practical exercises. And with proposal writing, what helps is what we call nutshell writing. In other words, in other words, we call it tiny text as well. So you write small pieces of text, and you use that to help you focus, but you also use that to help you flesh out your ideas. And with a proposal, it's useful to do a lot of nutshell writing because often we start with a very broad topic, and the proposal helps us to narrow that topic down to something very specific and very focused. And the nutshell writing helps us do that. And the first exercise I'd like us to do is you're going to write one sentence. You can write your sentence in the chat box. Um, you're going to write one sentence answering three questions. Um, so it might be a little bit of a long sentence, but the reason I'm asking you to write one sentence is because I want you to be very, very focused as possible. So the first question is, what are you researching? You can say, I'm researching X. Why is this topic important or relevant? So I'm researching X in order to learn how X works, or in order to learn why X looks the way it does. And then what is your aim? So I'm researching X in order to learn how X works so that, and whatever the contribution will be. So I'm just going to mute myself so that my background noise doesn't bother anyone. And I'd like you to write this single sentence about your topic. I'm researching in order to learn so that, and you can use these prompts. And please share your sentences in the chat. It doesn't have to be a good sentence. Just trying to focus on what the main ideas in your research is. I'm seeing lots of responses coming through. That's wonderful. We'll just give it another few, like half a minute to see some more coming in. Oh, I'll read through all of them afterwards. So let's look at we won't be able to look at every single one of them, but I don't want to put anyone on the spot. So maybe who would like us to discuss their sentence? Who would like to us to read their sentence? And I see. Oh, I saw a hand come up, and then it disappeared again. So just put your hand up if you'd like us to read your sentence. Oh, there I see. Colonel Mashiho. Okay, let's go find yours. Just trying to. So, is your sentence in the chat? Scrolling now to see if I can find it. Williams. I'm not seeing yours, Colonel Mashiho. Apologies for my dogs.
It's exactly at 9:11, ma'am.
Exactly at 9/11. Okay. Thank you. That's excellent. 9/11, that helps it narrow down. 12, 9/11. There we go. Excellent. I found it. Excellent. So you said I'm researching. Oh, yes, I like that one. I'm researching intelligence exceptionalism in democracy in order to learn how democracy affects the secrecy of intelligence so that we can find a balance between intelligence secrecy and demographic principles. Very nice. Now, Mashiko, do you have any concerns, anything specific you'd like to have feedback on with your sentence?
Not really for
No
now.
specific. Okay. So feedback to Colonel Mashego. What do you think about her sentence? It doesn't have to be just criticism. It can also be that if you like it, that it's focused, it's clear. Just scrolling way to the bottom to see if anyone's saying anything. Any feedback for Miss? Oh, sorry, for Colonel Mashego. Maybe I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to share my slides in a slightly different way. I'm going to add Colonel Mashego's sentence because maybe we're not getting any feedback because you can't see it. So I'm just going to copy and paste it onto the slide. Just quickly doing that. I'm going to share my screen just now again. Just quickly find this to share. There we go. Now we can see Colonel Mashego's sentence. So feedback. Her sentence reads, I'm just going to add the name so that I hope I spelled your surname correctly. So just read it again. I'm researching intelligence exceptionalism in democracy in order to learn how democracy affects the secrecy of intelligence so that we can find a balance between intelligence secrecy and democratic principles.
Can I
Yes.
answer? Sorry,
Yes.
our hands
Yes,
are up.
please
I
do.
don't think you can see that our hands are up.
No, I can't see the hands
Oh,
up.
okay.
Yes, but please do share. Yes.
So it's not my area at all, but I can clearly understand. I can see what the problem is. I can see why she wants to look at it. She's talking about learning how democracy affects the secrecy of intelligence. I understand why. And then with the aim to try, she says, to try and find a balance between the two. So to me, it's quite a clear question, well, quite a clear sentence. Yeah.
Very. Thank you very much, Mrs. van Niekerk. Yes, very clear sentence, very focused, very specific. Yes, very good. Colonel Mashego, very good. Oh, someone asked here, Ms. Banda asked, what does intelligence secrecy actually mean? Colonel Mashego, maybe you can and someone also asked, what is intelligence exceptionalism? Would you like to tell us? Yes.
Thank you, Eva May.
Yes.
Intelligence operates under the cloud of secrecy in terms of how they collect information, how it is processed, and who gets to access it, because it's meant for government policy, for security, for national security. So not everybody is allowed, if I can use that word, to access it for the sake of protection of the state or the national security. And that makes intelligence to be exceptional, because it's not the information that is readily available to every person, but only to those who are deemed to be, I'm not going to use the word worthy, but yeah, who can protect that information. The main reason being that it's for national security, it's for the security of the state. So you don't want to keep it or to make it available for people to access in case a foreign enemy, if I can use it like that, has access to it and use it against our state.
Okay.
Yeah, and because of democracy has a lot to do with transparency, has a lot to do with the right to access information and things like that. So there's a bit of conflict between the two. And then, however, since the intelligence agencies are operating within democracy and are funded by the taxpayers' money, they have to be accountable and transparent to society.
Yes.
I think it makes sense. I hope so.
It does. It does. It does. Thank you so much for sharing some more information. Excellent. Yeah, so very good sentence. I see Hamilton Kambalame's hand is up next. Is it still up? Yes. So Hamilton, would you like us to look at your sentence? Oh, I just had it here. Let me quickly find it again. Just quickly, there we go. So I'm going to paste your sentence onto the slide again. Okay. And create a new slide. New slide. Paste Hamilton. So Hamilton's sentence reads, I'm researching challenges faced by assistive devices providers in Malawi in order to know the pressing issues so that stakeholders can know how to improve service delivery. Very nice. Hamilton, do you have any specific questions about or any concerns about your sentence? Any specific feedback that you would like?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to know if it's specific enough to be a research question, because it's just something that I'm interested to know about, but not so sure if it's researchable.
Okay. Excellent. So feedback for Hamilton. What do you think of his sentence? You can either unmute yourself and talk, or you can type in the chat. Just going to see. I see some more hands up.
I've got a suggestion.
Yes,
Hi there.
Dr.
I think this is a great area of research. I think the second bit where it says in order to know the pressing issues, I think that's maybe a bit vague. And I think maybe, I would suggest something like in order to identify, the key obstacles. So that stakeholders can prioritize what to address. It just makes it seem a bit more like, say 3 key obstacles or something like that. Anyway, that was my suggestion.
Yeah, so that stakeholders can know which issues to, is that what you said, which issues to address?
Or just which obstacles to prioritize.
Oh yes, that's what you said, obstacles to prioritize. What do you think about that change, Hamilton?
Yeah, I think it's getting more specific. I think
Because this is definitely an interesting topic. Any other feedback for Hamilton? I'm just quickly going to. Oh, so Mrs. Squimby asked, what are assistive devices?
So assistive devices can be any maybe software or even a physical object that can help one to maybe able to accomplish activities of daily living, especially for people who have disability or have activity limitations. So an example would be a wheelchair, a prosthetic limb.
Excellent, thank you. And I think that then answers Mrs. Squirnby and Richmore's questions about the context. So which field are you in, Hamilton?
I'm a physiotherapist, but then but I'm studying masters in rehabilitation studies.
Okay. So we could so Mrs. Skumi said you could specify that it's assistive devices, providers, I'm not sure how we can add it to the sentence. So I'm going to make it an extra note that these are devices for people with physical disabilities. Physical disabilities. Yeah. Very, very interesting. Very nice. Thank you, Hamilton. Thank you for sharing. Excellent. We won't be able, obviously, if there's so little time, it would be lovely to go through every one sentence. I am going to spend some time afterwards just reading through your sentences. So we won't be able to look at all of them. I'm going to go back to the slides and I'll show you how, oops, sorry, I shared it in the wrong way. I'm going to show you how you can use this sentence. You can use it. So I assume that all of you are at different stages of your proposal. So some of you are maybe just starting out, some of you are close to submitting, or you're waiting to hear back from some of the committees. You can use this practical exercise at any time during your research. It's useful to do it in the beginning because it helps you to narrow down your focus. And it doesn't mean that your sentence can't change, but it does help you to see where are things vague, where do things need to maybe be narrowed down a little bit, or it helps you to identify, especially if your topic is quite broad and everything about it is interesting. It helps you to narrow down for yourself what do you actually want to focus on, what is most important to you. And it also helps you to start developing other parts of your text. So you can use the sentence, and we're going to look at how to do that, to construct the title. You can use the sentence to I'm researching. That tells you what your topic is. So you can make sure while you're writing your proposal that you keep going back to that. In order to learn how or why, that's the motivation, that's the rationale of your study. And so it's the beginning of your aim. So it helps you to write other parts of your proposal as well. So just before we look at how you can use this, and also it becomes a useful exercise while you're busy with your proposal, even after you've narrowed down your topic. Sometimes while you're writing, you start to get lost in all the details, in all the different aspects of your research. And if you regularly just write this single sentence for yourself, it helps you to refocus each time. So just these are the basic components of the proposal. And one possible template, I added it because people always ask for a template. And this template might differ from what you have in your department. Always go back to your department. Always ask them if they have a template and use that template. This is just a very general template, and you're free to use it, and you can adapt it. Also with your department's templates. That's why it's called a template. You don't have to religiously follow what's in there. You use the bits that's relevant to you. You organize it in a way that makes sense to you, because then it's going to be easier to create flow for your reader as well. The bits that I have in brackets, like the budget and the hypotheses, that's because not all research has that. So it's only if your research is hypothesis driven. Even also, just if your research or proposal needs to have a budget. And then the rest might be called by different names. So you'll have a working title, or it'll just be called title, but it will be a title that you are panel beating until you submit your thesis. So that's why it's a working title. And the introduction can be broken up into the background or the context, rationale. It doesn't have to be broken up, but you can just give background. Theory and literature analysis can be called different things. Most departments call it a preliminary literature review. Research problem, that consists out of problem statement and or research questions, aim and objective. So all of that can be call different things and organize differently. You just want to make sure that all the parts are there, regardless of what it's called. And what we're going to look at now is constructing your title. I'd first like us to look at a couple of examples. So we have, and your title is also nutshell writing. It's also a tiny text that you can use to, to create flow in your document, to write other parts. I just want us to look at, let's look at just feedback on the first title. Investigating Sino-African Relations, Investment and Governance Regimes in Sino-Ugandan Oil Relations. So what do you think of this title? I see some hands up, so I'm just going to ask Morgan. Yes, Morgan, what do you think about this title?
I don't know much about the topic, so just please remember that when answering. But I think that the title's okay. We know what they're gonna do.
Yes.
So I would say it's okay from my point of view.
Yes. Yeah. It tells us what we need to know. We know what the topic is. We know what they're going to do. So that works well. I see Dr. Gerrit ter Haar says it's a great title. Yes, it tells us what we wanted to know. Richmore, I see your hand is also up. What do you think about the title?
Yeah, I think one thing with the title one, it first tells you the larger broad context in that it's about Sino-African relationships. Then it narrows it down. It's speaking about governance, investment, governance regimes, and it's sector specific. It's speaking about oil and in Uganda. So the title alone, before you even read it, it tells you what you need to know about the topic.
Yes, I also like that about the title, Richmore, that it goes from broad to very specific. We know which industry, which countries, specifically what types of regimes. So yes, I also like this title. What about the next one? Etiology and management of, I'm not pronouncing that, lenticel decay, bullseye rot of apples in the Western Cape in South Africa. What do you think of that title? You can type in the chat box.
I'll take a shot.
Thank you. Yes, go for it. Yes, please.
Okay, so coming from the agriculture sector, I like this title because if I had to go and search for a disease specifically, and I got a whole lot of topics in my search, this will tell me exactly what I want to know because it's area specific. It tells me exactly where this rot occurs and where it's been, what it is, and also it says to me that it not just what it is, but also the management practice is going to be in this article, which is important for me then to look at.
Absolutely. Yes. And I like that you mentioned if you search for information, then this will help you determine if this fits with your study. Because you'll probably use different search terms. You'll use the colloquial term bullseye rot, and you'll use the fancy Latin name as well, and you'll see it's about apples. So it's very, very specific. It tells you exactly what you want to know. Dr. Nair says, wait. Ms. Namuganga says it's a great title, but etiology for a layman makes me scratch my head. Yeah, so it's definitely for a very specific audience. That's why I'm very glad it's going to be that you took the that someone from the field talked about the title. So, and even if etiology would make someone scratch their head, it's something that you can look up. So but it's it's aimed at a very specific audience. Dr. Nair says it's very comprehensive, even if you're not in agriculture. Yes, even if you're not in agriculture, thank you, Dr. Nair, you can still figure out what it's about. It's about some kind of disease in apples in the Western Cape of South Africa. And we can look up etiology, because I also don't know what etiology means. Isaac says the brackets doesn't seem appropriate. Now, those of you from agri-sciences can correct me, but as far as I know, in agri-sciences, you will have the Latin name of a disease or the animal or the plant, and then you'll have the colloquial name in brackets. So it might not be appropriate in other fields, but in agri-sciences, it's very common practice. And just addressing Dr. Terhaar's comment as well, he said that he'll put bullseye rot in italics. The problem there is that the convention in agri-sciences is that the Latin names are italicized and the colloquial names are not. So that's very, or put it in inverted commas. You could put it in inverted commas. As far as I know, those of you from agri-sciences, it's the convention to put it in brackets, right? You don't usually use inverted commas. Yeah, I see
correct.
some. Okay. And I see some thumbs up coming from people as well. So yeah, so that's the other thing. There is no one size fits all with academic writing. It's very field specific and sometimes even subject specific. Yeah, subject specific as well. So also great title. And then I threw in the last one just for the sake of interest. It says business counterintelligence, sustainable practice or passing fad and question. What do you think about this title? People usually have mixed reactions to this one. Yes, Ms. van Zyl. Or is Mr. van Zyl?
Yes,
Sorry, Mr. van Zyl.
Van
Sorry.
No problem. I think it's a very suitable title, but my experience is in business intelligence. And I think that would be very for me, a very interesting topic. Because I have an opinion on business counterintelligence and I understand what
Yes.
the concept is about. But I don't think that is a general understandable topic, especially the counterintelligence. It sounds very subversive and yeah, I can't remember the word now. But for people in the industry, it will be a very interesting topic. I think in general, it's not like the previous one that will grab your attention. It's a nefarious title, I think.
I like that. It's a nefarious title. Yes. Yeah, it does catch your attention. Because it's so nefarious, or can seem so nefarious. Thank you for that, Mr. van Zyl. Liza, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
It's Lisa, minus okay.
Lisa. No. We do it right. Lisa. Yes.
So I'm not from this field, but the title seems a bit more almost like a clickbait newspaper article title than I would say an academic paper. It seems as if it's I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe it's just the question mark, which seems a bit odd.
Yeah, it makes sense. It is from an academic piece, but I hear what you're saying because it's got that catchiness to it as well. And then Lady Makubo. Yes, thank you for that, Lisa. Lady Makubo.
Hi.
Hi.
I think it's an appropriate title for a literature review, but not for a proposal.
Okay.
So, yeah, it is catchy, but I think it sort of defies the convention that literature is supposed to be boring. So I suppose that's why, because when I moved from science to education, I think there's a lot more freedom in writing in the other spheres outside of sciences. So I'd read this, but I wouldn't accept it as a proposal because it's not specific enough. And I just think, oh, this is for a literature review or reviewing what business counterintelligence is.
That is a very interesting observation because this is from a review article. So that is very interesting. That is wow. Very good eye. And you're right, in the social sciences, we do have a lot more freedom in being creative. And what Mr. van Zyl, oh no, wasn't it? Lisa also said is that we tend to think of academic writing as dry and boring, and it doesn't have to be. So just some of the comments in the chat. It's Larry Makobo, you say that it's catchy and relaxed. It seems like it is a review more than a proposal. And then Ms. Chetty said, can the title ask a question? The convention usually is that it will be a noun phrase, it will be a statement, but it doesn't have to be, especially if it serves a purpose. So in this case, our understanding is that the writer is going to present a debate about whether business counterintelligence is sustainable or not. So the question mark in this case has a function, has a purpose in the title. So actually, with academic writing, you can do whatever you want as long as you have a reason for doing it in that way. So someone, Richmond also said, yes, it sounds like a newspaper article. And then Ms. Banda said, as a non-researcher, I find it intriguing. Yes. And even if you're not in the field, I like the way that Mr. van Zyl described it as a nefarious title. It draws your attention. It's very catchy. Dr. Ter Haar says it's a fad, sounds informal. It does. And when I use this title with people from business management and from economics and ask them what they think about it, some of them said it's too informal, and others said this is something that they use commonly in. Maybe Mr. van Zyl, is fad a term that's used in the field?
No, not really. I think I agree the language is not formal enough, but it's in the practical management science, in consulting houses. They would try and use language to draw your attention. So from a business point of view, I can understand that, but from an academic point of view, I think
that
it's
would
a
maybe
bit
not.
informal. Yes.
Yeah. The thing with catchy titles are that they can be risky if you use them in an academic context. Some people might feel that it's not appropriate, and other people might feel this is very intriguing, this is great. So I want to encourage you to use catchy titles, but always be aware that not everyone would be very open to it. So I see two more hands. Oh, Dr. Gerrit removed his hand. Oh, it's back. Okay. So Lisa first. Oh, yes. Oh, Dr. Gerrit, yes.
Sorry, I just want to quickly comment on. I'm from an engineering background, so our papers are probably more less creative than other fields. So I would kind of hope to, when I read the actual proposal for this, I'd probably just go to the end to actually find the answer to the question, if it's a yes or no.
Yes.
Not so.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it probably just depends on which field you are inside. For my field, I'd probably take the authors less seriously and in sort of their. But I suppose it's just it's a catchy phrase probably because it's short, so it's quite straightforward.
Yeah,
understandable.
Yeah, and like you said, it's very dependent on the field you're in. So an engineer might go like, I want the specifics and the details, no catchiness. I'm going to go to specific parts and read that. Whereas in the social sciences, we might try to be a little bit more creative. Yeah, I'm just quickly going to mention just two more comments here because a lovely discussion in the chat also going on. Isaac says that the title looks like a title for a very experienced researchers or professors who have the liberty to write how they wish without the risk to face criticism. Yes, we usually, once someone is an established researcher, all rules go out the window. Whatever they tell you you should do, they don't do that themselves often. So that's a very valid point, Isaac. And then I'm going to comment on that. With Lady Makubo also said, I think this is where the writer's personality comes in. I reckon this writer is usually punchy and is probably a seasoned writer. So it's really interesting, the comment from Lady Makubo and from Isaac, because this is actually from an honors student, but the honors student is I can't remember. They're a really good writer. So, and then yeah, someone said they may be considered one of the big fish in the field. So it's interesting that that is how we perceive it. It's actually from an honors student who wrote a literature review article. So that's very, I think that's fascinating, the way we perceive the moment someone starts to break the rules. So I want to encourage you to break the rules, but just be aware that not everyone will be open to it. And also it depends on your field. You don't want to, so I can imagine, like Dr. Gerard said, if you do this with an engineering text, a reader might be put off by that because they want the facts and the details. Oh yes, very good point, Ms. Banda. Ms. Banda says perhaps crafting the title depends on the targeted funder, for example, international trusts or foundations or philanthropists other than academia. Absolutely. Yeah. And also their title made it so that more people want to read it. So even though it's very specifically focused on the field of business counterintelligence, the way it is phrased makes it inviting to a broader audience. So you always think about your audience and your purpose. Same with your proposal. A very small group of people are going to read it. So you might not do this for a proposal. Your title would look more like the previous two. So what I'd like us to do, I'm quickly going to show you how we can, I'm going to share my slides again, how we can use this sentence to construct a title for those of you perhaps don't have titles yet. So I want to use Colonel Mashigo's one. I'm going to copy it and paste it here. So, Colonel Mashigo, I'm going to ask you, what are your, so I'm going to take us through the steps to use this to create a title. What are your most important keywords in your sentence? I hope
they are intelligence secrecy.
Intelligence secrecy, okay.
And democratic principles.
Okay, sorry, I just want to, so secrecy, intelligence secrecy, and I'm going to underline that. And you said, what is the democratic principles?
Yes.
Are there any other words in the sentence that are keywords?
Balance is
Balance is very important.
Yes. I think those are the keywords.
Yeah. Would you say that intelligence exceptionalism is also a keyword or not? Does that form part of secrecy or intelligence secrecy?
Eventually, secrecy leads to, I think it might lead to exceptionalism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can, I'm going to make it italic, so it's kind of, but not as important as the rest.
Yes.
So from your title, oh no, so from your sentence, sorry. which of those three phrases would you say is most important? Secrecy or intelligence secrecy, balance, or democratic principles?
I think balance is the most important.
Okay, balance. What would so the reason I ask that is usually everything that you write, whether that's a sentence or a title or a paragraph, chapter, anything that you write has a beginning, middle, and end. And whatever you want to emphasize, you place that close to the beginning. So in your, because that's prime position in a sentence or in a title. And if you place your most important word in the beginning, then that helps with focus. Your reader knows this is what is most important. So that's why I asked which of those are the most important. You said balance is most important. That's why I'm putting it first. What would you put next? Intelligence secrecy or democratic principles?
Intelligence secrecy first, then democratic principles after.
Okay. And I put the little dots because we're going to fill it in with words. Democratic principles. Okay. So how can we fill up? We could also change the word balance, the form of the word, not the word itself. Or we can add something between balance and intelligence secrecy. What would you like to do?
I think we can add something between
to connect them. What could we add?
I think balance between intelligence secrecy and democratic principles.
Very nice. Is there anything you want to add to the title? That's not your title. Balance between intelligence secrecy and democratic principles. Do you want to add anything?
Maybe to make it acceptable for a research, then we can put maybe something like investigating the balance or or analyzing.
Oh, I like analyzing. That's just my personal preference. Let's put both. Investigating. Investigating.
Yeah, the balance between. Yeah.
Very nice. Can we add anything else to make it specific? I assume it's in South Africa.
Yeah, maybe we can have a comparative study.
Oh.
Yeah. Comparative study. I'm not sure if we can add a country comparing it with South Africa. Or we can leave it as a comparative study just like this.
I think if you add that it's a comparative study, that you'll have to add comparing what? So you'll have to add the two countries. But that's very interesting. That's very interesting. I'll read that. Very nice. And you have the beginnings. Yeah, you'll just add the details once you've decided if you want to look at two countries, comparative study between South Africa and Namibia. I don't know. Yes, very nice. Just as a point of interest, Mashiko, do you already have a title for your proposal?
This is the title that I was thinking of. Because I read a lot on intelligence secrecy and also the democratic principles, and I've seen how the secrecy is disadvantaging intelligence, especially in terms of budget.
Okay.
Because there's so much secrecy, they are unable to try and what is the right term? To request more funding for intelligence because they are unable to say why.
And what it's for.
So yeah, it's working against the agencies itself, intelligence agencies itself, because they want to request more budget, but they cannot tell the parliamentarians why do you want more money.
Yeah. And they can't say what it's used for. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and if you look at the PFMA, they should be accountable. There is IGI, Inspector General Intelligence, and the AG who wants to know what is happening, where is the money going, and anyway, the taxpayers are supposed to know where the money is going, but intelligence is unable to tell them where it's going. So in a way, it's disadvantages to the agencies.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
And now what is making it more difficult is that looking at the history of intelligence secrecy, I think we all know what the CIA has done, the apartheid government intelligence has done under the cover of secrecy. So it's not easy for the democratic society to blindly just pour in money to the intelligence agencies for the fear of repetition of and misuse. Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting topic. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much.
Very nice. Very nice. So I'm just quickly going to take, there's 5 minutes left. I'm quickly going to take one question from Ajibola. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Ajibola asks, does this method of crafting headlines work for all manners of writing, academic, journalism? Not necessarily. You can use it as a starting point, I think, for crafting all manners of headlines, but you'll then rework it to fit the conventions of the type of text that you're writing. And considering your readership, that might be what's happen. Rich Horse says, interesting study, just wondering how you will collect data given the secrecy. She is a colonel, so she might know people. But yeah, well, we don't have to go into that now. And then someone else said, is balance specific enough? Isaac asked, it could be yeah, so what usually happens is you tweak your title until the very last day that you submit your thesis. Oh, nice. Someone, Lady Makubo, said, oh, she gave us a catchy title. So I don't know if you've seen this, Colonel Mashego, drawing the line, finding the balance between secrecy, intelligence, and democratic principles in country X and Y. Oh, I like it. I love you might have noticed by now, I'm from the social sciences, so I love catchy titles, but I do understand the need to sometimes have something very straightforward and not catchy, not to lose any readers. And then Mr. Groepe, I hope I pronounced correctly, says he's doing a postgrad diploma. How extensive does the title have to be at this level? Titles will always be as informative as possible. So you want to make sure that you have all your keywords and you have, I didn't show the previous slide, but you also have the action. So what is it that you want to do? Because that is what makes it specific. So oftentimes if we read just the titles, in an academic context, we can't necessarily tell if it's for a proposal, if it's for a postgraduate diploma, if it's a master's, doctorate. That is usually the scope would tell us, but the title itself you want to set your readers' expectations appropriately in terms of what is going to be the focus in your text. And so for all titles in academics, whereas topic and action, you want keywords. And just getting back to what Ms. Quinby said, you want to have a title that if someone types in a bunch of keywords into a search engine or a database, you want to have keywords that in your title, that if someone types in the same keywords, it's going to pop up and they're going to see that your topic or your text is useful to them. I hope that answers the question. I was going to ask you to do with your own sentences what we've done now to Colonel Mashigo's title and then share that, but I see we're running out of time. I will make the slides available. I'm going to send it to Kirchner. But I just want to end off by firstly thanking you for your very active participation in the session. It's always lovely to work with people who are really engaged. And then just, apart from the library training that is excellent, and I usually attend several sessions, so library training is excellent. And then the writing lab and reading lab also offer support in terms of one-to-one consultations that we do online, and we also do it in person, whichever works easiest for you. The consultations are free for Stellenbosch University students and staff. And then, of course, we have full workshops in writing proposals, literature reviews, articles, theses, and dissertations. It says in the link workshops for 2022 because our website is still not updated. But you can go and look at what types of workshops we have, and then just let me know if you're interested in any of them. And I'll send you the link to enroll for the workshops in 2023, where you will then see all the dates for 2023. And we also have a reading lab, where they also offer support with reading strategies and reading critically. So I just want to say thank you very much for the library for inviting me back again to do the session. It's always such a pleasure to work with the library and with all the students and staff. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. I'll just briefly switch on my camera again to wave goodbye. Thank you very much. And I appreciate your input and your sharing of your topics. I'm going to read through all of them now. Thank you. Have a great rest of the library week and session. Thank you.